Welcome to episode 9 of the Healthy Mind podcast. Today, as we're talking about mindset, specifically today, we have an awesome coach. He is a mindful master and a peer support. And he's here to help you get more a positive mindset and create that shift to change your life completely from today. I don't want to tell much about it because I want you to discover the power of mindset and see what John can do for us. And his motto, what he believes, what he teaches, coaching is be mindful, pause, and connect. So guys, please welcome John Shearer. Welcome, John. Great to have you here.
How are you, Alex?
I'm very well. How are you, John?
Excellent.
I can't see you yet. You're coming. Here you go.
There you go.
How's the day going in Grafton?
Oh, good. It started this morning at sunrise, like always. That's how I love to connect with the day, witness the sunrise. And then 8 o'clock, I did a podcast with Alex in Brazil. So 2 Alex in one day.
Another Alex in one day. Awesome.
Yeah.
They keep the wheel going with this podcast. We try to helping people to actually use their mindset better. So
Sure.
In terms of action and reaction, you're talking about pausing. What do you think is a good little simple exercise, for example, to do for ourselves when something happens and instead to unconsciously react, make that pause and then consciously react and think about it. What is better to say? What is better to do?
Exactly. Yeah. And we can talk about that.
Yeah. What do you think, like, for the people that are watching, what is your tip for that particular things to improve the way someone reacts?
Well, always I teach, be mindful, pause, connect. That's it. After 9,000 hours, over 9,000 hours, I've spent studying mindfulness and all the different aspects of mindfulness and cultures as well. Then that's how I've simplified it down to that. And if you Google be mindful, pause, connect, you'll find me. It's all over my stuff for a long time now. So I always use that, no matter what, whether it's motivation, whether it's life coaching, whether it's in mental health, doesn't matter what it is. I start with that, and then I trust what I'm channeling, what comes through, because it's different for everybody. It's the same when people come and see me. You know, I don't have a script because you don't need one. You've got to trust your intuition.
Exactly.
What you're meant to say at the right time for that crowd or for that group or one-on-one, whatever, then, you know, you trust the process. You learn to trust it. And I'll bet you're very good at it too, Alex.
Yes, I usually exactly the same principle. The thing is, like, it's really interesting because every one of us, as far as we are on the same philosophy, we listen to our body, we use our intuition, but then maybe we work slightly different because we have different experience. But the concept is still the same, and everyone can use that. Like when you were talking about pausing, everyone can pause, right? You just need to decide and think and do it. For me,
That's
like
it.
the 3 words that I use, for me, what I do use is simple, achievable, and sustainable. Because when we're going to create results, even if there is maybe lots of science behind and whatever you study or you experience, it must to be simple for people to be applicable, right? So they can do
Absolutely.
it. Then it must to be achievable. So it's whatever goal you have, if it's too big, break it down in smaller goal, in a sense that whatever you do, you can get there and you can feel good because you achieved that first step and then the second step and then the third step. And then as a consequence, for me, you're feeling better because you have that feeling of accomplishment. And so you understand that you can do it because it's simple and achievable. So the next step is, well, I can do it not just for now or for the next 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 10 weeks or 6 months. I can do it forever, adapting, but you can do it forever. So it's becoming sustainable. And that's the key that usually is exactly opposite. It's like when we were talking about the other day, we mentioned
Yeah.
diets. Diets, usually they do exactly the opposite thing. They make something that is based on creating results or some kind of results really quick right now, like an instant gratification, but it's not sustainable. What do you think about that?
Perfect. Yep. Simple, achievable, and sustainable.
It's a key. So
Excellent.
for the people that right now, maybe someone, it was productive, someone maybe it was just sitting there, just pausing too much and waiting that something happened and the world is going back to the new normal. What would you suggest instead? Because I have my suggestion, but I want to hear from you first. What do you think for the people that in the past few weeks and maybe the coming weeks, they will have more time to pause and think and be productive? What are you suggesting of what kind of practice they can apply to create the things that they always wanted to be created, but they never had time, or they never had money, or they didn't have the motivation? What's your suggestion?
Well, it gets back to that same thing. Be mindful, pause, connect. Because when we start practicing this, and that is mindfulness, when we start practicing then we start developing good new habits of pausing. And that's where the power is. I often say the power of mindfulness is in the silence between our thoughts. So the more silence we can create, the more power to us. And during this time, people have had a chance to have a good look at themselves,
Yes,
hopefully,
I
if they
did.
spend their time wisely. Yeah, and so having a good look at themselves, and I know because I've had a lot of comments already from people, they have, and they've reevaluated things because they've lost their job, they've had their hours cut, all sorts of things have happened. And now they're sitting back and thinking, well, why was I working like that? Long hours doing this and that. And there's more important things in life. And I believe that is happening. So then when you start soul searching, that's what I call it, when you start searching your soul, and of course using silence to do that as well. And what I teach is, I don't teach much about goal setting, but that's very important in your industry. But I teach people the value of values. So I encourage people to do values work out 4 or 5 core values. And then when you have decisions about your new life direction, and quite often when it is a new life direction, that can be quite stressful too, and because it's on our mind all the time. You know, we've got to find a new job, or we're moving, or we're in a new relationship, you know, those big things. And they tend to take up a lot of mind space. But if we start focusing on our values, the things that are really important to us, you know, like family, love, you know, all the things we value, the things we stand for, then, you know, it makes the decision-making process a lot easier. And also I teach heart testing, putting our fist or hand on our heart. If when you've got those things on your mind that are taking up a lot of your mind space, okay, and then whatever it is, silence your mind. Once again, it's the practice. Silence your mind and feel it in your body, in your heart. Feel it, whatever that thing is. And you'll either have a kind of knowing, or any doubt, leave it out. Okay, you know, if you're not sure. So, and that works, and that can be a real help as well moving forward.
Yes, I picked up like 3 really good words that resonate for what we all do and what we all teach to our students, which is, first of all, is habits. That's a powerful word if you go on the deep meaning of that, because in the end, it all matter of what kind of habits you create in order to be sustainable and be consistent. Because it's not what you do sometimes, it's what you do all the time and how you do it until you become a habit. And it can be good or bad. So the choice is completely on us. It's not a bad habit. A lot of people, I believe, that they confuse it with excuses. Like, I keep doing that because blah, blah, blah happen. I cannot do this because I lost my job, blah, blah, blah. Instead, we can react differently. We can pause, as you said. This morning, I was in a call with Italy with some clients and friends that I had in the past few years. And it was really, I did the call just to check on them and see how they were and how they were reacting. And some of them were quite positive. Some others, it was one like still worried too much of what the mass is doing and what it was wrong. And so like, you can't control these things. You can control the way you react to these things, the way you can put forward the opportunities that you can create in whatever situation, especially under pressure. Then we're talking about habits. Then what was the second one? You were talking about values. So the values, even that one, I was talking with another coach from California, great coach, Steve Cotta, the other day. And the language that we talk, all of us, is value the values itself. It's not value something because of the money value or that kind of value. Is the value itself. That maybe for some of us, it could be something expensive. Like we all different. It's not necessary that family or love or something like that, it must be your value. It is in my values, but if someone value a lot a big house or an expensive car, for me, if it's good, it's a real value for them, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I believe that lots of people, they misunderstand that kind of values. And then what was the last thing that you were talking about?
What was it?
Values. We talk about the habits. There was the third word that I lost it in a minute. But anyway, you can see like how the same things, you can really apply it in a different way, but still with the same concept.
Absolutely. When we look at all the masters through history and masters around the planet, because there's plenty around, maybe 1 million masters, who knows? People that have really mastered themselves, I'm talking about. When you do, that's the first thing we always should work on is self-mastery. When we can master our thoughts especially, because thoughts rule a lot of people. They're ruled by their own thoughts. And when we learn to really step back and start observing our thoughts from the perspective of the silent observer, that's what I like to call it. The silent observer is our sixth sense, our gut feeling, our intuition, soul or spirit. There's lots of words for the same thing. And when we look at masters, they're all saying the same things, but using different languages. That's all. Yeah, it's amazing. And that proves to me that we all have the same source, the same God, universe, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't matter what you call it. The really important thing is that we connect with it.
Yes, and the connection is really important. I can say with every single person that I met in this podcast, some people I already knew them since a long time, some others I just met, like you. But with all of you, the vibration, the way we talk and what we're talking about and our purpose of helping other people, it just gives a connection straight away.
Yeah. Straight away.
So if someone, for example, is coming to you and in this time, let's say it was already a negative person, and now because the COVID or because what's happening around the world, true or not, I'm not going to question that, is becoming even more negative, and it feels depressed or she feels depressed with not power, not desire to create or keep going to go towards her goals, for example. What is the first thing that you would work in terms of mindset to start creating that little shift to the positive?
Yeah, well, when you talk about leadership, I straight away think of Google back in the early 90s, late 80s and early 90s when they were a fledgling company, really. And they decided to do a huge study into leadership, and they started looking at the huge companies in the world, the most successful companies, and why their leaders were so successful. And out of that huge study they did, what they found were the top two traits of leadership was empathy and listening. Empathy and listening. Amazing when you start to think about that. That it's powerful because you build a team around you with those two skills. And that's what it's all about. And then what Google did, they invited Thich Nhat Hanh, who's probably the most famous mindfulness teacher on the planet. He's 93 years old now. He's a Vietnamese monk. And he escaped Vietnam way back when there was wars happening and stuff there. And he went to France and started a monastery there. And it's just amazing what they're doing for mindfulness with children and in education and all sorts of things. And now he's back in Vietnam. He's chosen to go back there to die. But Thich Nhat Hanh, Google got him out to teach all their staff mindfulness. So he went to California and taught all their staff mindfulness. And to this day, Google, everyone wants to work for Google because Google staff have regular breaks, they meditate, they have a gym to keep fit. They realize this is very important for the people working for them, and they do it on work time too. And by teaching them mindfulness skills and how to connect with themselves and silence their mind, and that gives them access, of course, to creativity. And they trust their intuition, and they start to realize, yes, they do have those skills, and that divine wisdom and creativity and intelligence, it's available to everyone. We don't have to be Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein, one of my favorite quotes is one of his. He said, the only real valuable thing is intuition. And he's right, because he fully realized all the brilliant things he came up with, he was channeling it from the universe. He was a channel. But we don't have to be Albert Einstein to do that. We can all do that. And that's how we build motivation as well. You know, when we start thinking for ourselves and developing that mindset, that's really important.
That's great, because you can see how many things they going into one to create. In the end, it's quite simple. As you said, everyone can do it. You don't need to be a scientist.
No.
At the same time, it's never one thing. It's multiple things. So be the intuition like Google, that they were taking about their mind, they were taking care about their body, they were taking care about the stress to create more, doing less. Because often that's exactly, I reckon, if you agree with me, that's exactly the trap. We try to do more and more and more and more, and we don't keep enough space to exercise our mind, to exercise our body, to have time for ourselves, because we think the more we put in and more we pull out, but then we burn out, our mind is not clear, and we can't really create our best. So that's a great example, and it's awesome. And everyone has a story of why we do what we do. For example, for me, well, I always had that good feeling in my body that since I was a kid, I was playing lots of sports, and simply, not just because I like it, but because moving for me, I was feeling really, really good. Like in my mental space and physically. I was feeling great. And if I wasn't moving, for example, when I started to go to school, sit for 6 hours a day or so, that for me was a killer. I wasn't feeling good, and my body wasn't feeling good. And you know, I'm more creative when I do stuff, when I can move. But I compete in many sports for many, many years. I love crazy things. I love extreme sports, speed. But what it really changed me, in 2006, I got a motorbike accident. And I almost died. I was in a coma for 24 hours. Then I woke up in a hospital bed. I could not move. I could not walk. And, well, I just don't tell all the story, but it was a long rehab to go back to physically do what I do.
I had back problems and lots of these things. But there is one thing I never lost. I never lost my why and the clarity of what I wanted in my life. So I didn't accept that situation because I could, as you said, without pausing, I could just react badly and think like, oh, that's a bad thing that just happened to me, and I'm going to accept that my life is going to be different. And I can't have this, I can't have that, I can't have that. Or I could react differently and say, no, this is what I want. I want to travel the world. I want a family. I want to live in a place where it's the tropical weather. That's why I'm here. And, you know, I want to enjoy my life and do a job that is actually a love, a passion, which is what I do for the rest of my life, helping more people. And I started to see the fitness industry also in a different way because I've been in pain, because I couldn't move. So it wasn't even about to perform and getting fit or fitter. That was a consequence. But when I experienced something that it was normal, but it wasn't normal at that time, like having a shower by myself or go to the bathroom or be able to, put the socks on, every normal thing. And I needed someone else, like my mom or my family, that was doing it for me. And I didn't like it. I wanted to be independent. And it gave me a big drive to improve for months. Physiotherapy, work on my legs, and then later on my back, and study more deeper about the core, because I didn't accept that status. So I changed it. I changed my status. I said, no, this is how I want to feel. And listen carefully, guys. The feeling is not the looking, because you can look fit and feel bad. So,
beautiful, Alex.
What is your story of what you do, why you do what you do, and how you actually understand more people in the other side? Like for me, is understanding pain.
Well, in 1982, I died in a truck crash on the Hume Highway down in Victoria in the fog. And I was obviously revived, and I woke up sometime later. I was in a coma as well. And coming back, I still don't have words to describe that coming back. You know, it was amazing. But when I saw photos of the wreck and my dog was killed, and you would not give me a chance to be alive at all. You just wouldn't, because it was crushed. The bonnet of the truck rolled up and went through the windscreen, finished where I was sitting even. So straight away I was thinking there must be a reason why I'm alive. And there's got to be a reason. I couldn't believe I was alive, especially after I saw the photos. And, you know, I really felt there was some sort of calling on my life. But what I did, because straight away the person I was driving the truck for had no insurance, no compensation. So I went from looking after my young family, you know, went from eating steak, if you like, not that I'm a meat eater now, but eating steak to eating mincemeat, you know what I mean? I didn't cope, and I went downhill, and I got depressed and all the rest of it. And later that year I had what they called psychosis. I know now it was spiritual emergency. There's a new term in the world now for psychosis and things like that. Spiritual emergency. Well, this went on for 15 years. I was in and out of mental health wards, and I was suicidal at one point. I had electric shock treatment, and anyhow, 15 years. I call them dark years because I was blind to the truth. I didn't really know what was going on. And by 1997, I was rock bottom. And mental health professionals told me that what I had was incurable, and I'd have to be on medication for the rest of my life, and I'd never work again. And I believed them because they're the professionals, you know, and that kept me stuck. And there's so many people still stuck in that system, I call it, the system. Shocking. And then an old friend, what happened, I got my miracle, I call it my miracle. An old friend I hadn't seen for nearly 20 years, we were great mates, played a lot of snooker together. And he moved away to Sydney, and I didn't see him for 20 years. He was passing through town, through Wagga Wagga it was, and he had what he called a spiritual prompt to come and knock on my door and tell me his story. And 2 days later, I had a spiritual awakening, and I've been on a different path altogether. No more depression, no more meds, no, none of that. I got on a different path altogether. And you know, I haven't been able to find him ever since. He has no idea what he did for me that day. That's for sure. But I became part of his ripple, his ripple effect. And that's why I'll show you the cover of my book, Mindful Actions. And I put the ripple effect on there. And I wrote this book kind of accidentally in 2014. And I often say it is always my hope that the people who are touched by my ripple then start a ripple of their own. Because that way we can change the world. One person at a time. We can. We can. Governments and religions can't do it, but we can. And I really believe it is happening. And this virus, this thing we're going through now, is really helping, because it's giving people a chance to have a good look at themselves and look at their values and look at what's really important to themselves. You know, look at their body shapes and connect with their body, because you know how you hear mind, body and spirit. I really believe that's back to front. It should be spirit, mind and body, because you can't really get your mind right until you get your spirit right, and you can't really get your body right until you get your mind right. And once you do get that, your mind right, and start connecting with your body, start listening to your body, then you can do something about it. You can make lifestyle changes. Forget diets, make lifestyle changes and start looking after your body. Yeah. So that's a bit of my story, and I love your story, and I've got a lot of similarities there, and I really believe that we all should start sharing our stories, because it inspires people. People realise, hey, I'm not the only one. You know, if he can do it, I can do it too.
And it's very inspiring, more than no more, but before the knowledge, because like I believe if everyone, we look at people even better than us, but we must be inspired of where they are right now if we're gonna get there, but also have a look deeper on why they're going there, why they went there, what was the story, what was the motivation, to understand that most of creative people, successful people, they got a quite powerful, brutal, maybe bad story, you know. It's maybe physically, maybe mentally, they've been in really bad rock bottom situations. And again, for someone was really a good turning point on reacting and unleash the potential and understand the spirit and understand the power of mind to do something different. So I would love to everyone that is listening, watching right now, to go deep in listening, be open to listen, because we were talking about before, listening is one of the most powerful things. And then go deep in yourself. Like, you know, if something bad happened, is not necessarily a bad thing. It can be turned and flip it upside down, and can be a good trampoline. It could be an opportunity to be able to see further or deeper and work on ourselves. Be inspired, listen to more people, more stories, and see what can I do instead of, I always say, like, not focus on the problem, focus more on the solution. If we know there is a problem, instead of like complaining about the problem, once the problem is there, we know it's there. It's a fact. But what can I do to get better? What can I do to overcome? Or what are the people that I can learn from? Because that's one of the best things that I found when I discovered that I don't have to figure out everything by myself. So that's why we're here, right? You're coaching and teaching your students, and for yourself, I bet you got your mentors or whatever experience you get from someone else. Because if you learn as much as you can from us or from someone else like us or better than us, you can simply already absorb it and then figure it out, not how to do it, but how to put it to the next level and help yourself more other people, right?
Beautiful, Alex. And what I'll do, I'll send you a link to the PDF of my book, and it's actually improved, and you can share it with your listeners, the link. It's in
Awesome.
my Google Cloud, okay? And that's just a little gift from me to them. And I'll give you a little crash course on Be Mindful, Pause, Connect, okay? Be mindful is a key thought I teach people to use when they notice their mind being unhelpful or negative, or in the past, which can make us depressed, or in the future, which can make us anxious. When we notice, and mindfulness is all about noticing and being aware of what our mind is doing, and our body too, of course. So when we notice anything helpful or our mind not where our body is, in other words, then we use the instruction, and it comes from our heart to our mind. And we say to our mind, be mindful. It's an instruction. And then we allow that to trigger a pause. And it only takes a few seconds. We pause. And in that pause, we connect 3 ways. We connect with where we are, using our 5 senses for that. Take a look around you now. Everything you see started with a thought. You start to see the beauty in the world. So we connect using our senses with where we are. We connect with who we're with full presence. Very important. Not thinking about what to say next, not having an agenda, not anything. Just be present. Like, you're very good. You're fully present with me when I'm talking, and I'm fully present with you when you're talking, and we have a connection, and we feel it. We know it.
The feeling is everything.
Yeah, and the most valuable gift you can give your loved ones is your full presence. You're
not full present, you will never get the best from it.
Exactly.
You're wasting the time and the opportunity.
That's it. Because we're always the teacher and the student. And the third part, and probably most important part of the connection, is connecting with our source energy. Because at our core, we are energy. And once we realize that we are all connected and connected with source energy, the great creator, then wow. Because when we create that silence in between our thoughts, when that pause, then that divine wisdom and intelligence and creativity is available for us. And we turn our intuition on. So it's particularly valuable when you've got someone in your face, saying or doing something, whatever. And one time we might have reacted to that, and then we're in an argument and things get out of control. But with mindfulness, we learn to be mindful. We tell ourselves, if someone's in our face, whatever, be mindful. And after a while, when you create a new habit, then you don't need to tell your mind be mindful, because it just becomes automatic. You just pause and connect. It's just automatic after a while. So when they're in your face, we realize that what they're saying and doing is where they're coming from. And when you realize this, you start observing this, it's true. It is always where they're coming from. It has nothing really to do with us. And then when we pause, of course, then we receive, something intelligent that enables us to respond. It's better than reacting. Respond. Yeah. So be mindful, pause, connect, write it down, write it on your mirror, make a point of doing it every day, then throughout your day. And when you develop this new habit of mindfulness, it's a whole different world. Your motivation levels go up. You start looking after your body more. Everything changes, and it's a beautiful thing. And you start living according to your values as well. So
it is. So thank you so much for your time first, and then second for your gift. So guys, you will find a link in the description wherever you will see this podcast, on YouTube or my page on Facebook. And so it's really, I hope you appreciate the time, and you appreciate the effort, and you appreciate the gift. But most of all, it's not about just absorbing and getting, spending some time with us. Is how can you apply whatever you are absorbing? That's the most, like, the last thing is, if you don't take action in things, nothing will change. It's just lots of positive things that are just going around and around. But then we're going to take action. Like, it's extremely important on my side, whatever you do.
Excellent. Thank you, Alex, and thank you for all you're doing. and we've got the same heart to make a difference. And that's what the world needs.
Exactly. As you said, we can. So guys, thank you again. And stay tuned, because it's coming more and more. This podcast, it will go ahead, and it's awesome even for us to create that kind of connections. And we'll say hopefully Monday, maybe we organize something to be all in the same room and create something very powerful. Because as you said, we can help. Imagine a lot of us together, how powerful it can be and how positively it can affect millions of people.
We can't do much on our own, Alex, that's for sure.
Exactly.
And that's why I created mindfullymad.org 5 years ago now. And that's a place where you can find a mindfulness mentor, someone like me. And that's growing. It's all around the world now in different countries. But together we can do lots. We can
do a lot. And it's the same for everyone that is listening. Like, if you get whatever problem, don't get even more depressed because you can't figure it out. Reach out. There's nothing better than looking for help. Because if you can't see the solution, but someone else can give you a solution and can help you, that's amazing. Because once you feel better, you're out of the hole. You can go further, and maybe you will inspire. Actually, I'm sure that you will inspire someone else. That's great. All right, stay tuned. We just say hello to the public. You stay online. Thanks again, and guys, I'll see you for the next podcast. Ciao.